so the lecture is about God is in control, and we're going to look on Genesis 9 till verse 32. And I know that there's a lot of stuff that you're going to miss because we can't look at everything. But I suppose that you will read Sitlo Baxter and more on your own time on this wonderful subject. But when we look at Genesis 9 till 11 verse 32, we will see that God is in control after the awesome influence that one man had when he was right with God. And also before that, the men that was not right with God. Now in the first 17 verses in Genesis 9, it contains important facts which God shared, listen, with Noah and his sons. What's going to happen, what's it going to be like. And you remember, out of the ark, it's a new world. Must have been awesome, funny. I don't know what Noah think about when he went out. Some places where there were mountains, not mountains, and rivers, there was not rivers, and everything was up and down, standing on top of it in the ark and looking for the water going down. And so God talked to them, and He enabled them to live on a land which God gave them. They had to take note of two important facts as given by God. Firstly, there were certain changes after the flood. It's not the same anymore. The world is not the same. There's a lot of things. And then in verse 8 to 17, He gives them a covenant. The covenant given after the flood, what God said, what will be and what will stand, and what they kind of cannot change. So at first, we look at the changes made after the flood. Now remember, before the flood, there were no laws. Before the flood, there were no laws given to abide. So there was a total lawless society. And of that society, only 8 people entered the ark. Before the flood, all people on earth were vegetarians. This, however, changed after the flood. Vegetarians means they didn't eat any meat. And that's why there's some changes. There was a change in behavior between man and beast. Before that, the man wasn't afraid of the lion, and also the lamb, not for the lion. And then after the flood, all of it changed. And the man went after the animals to eat the animals, because they need the animals to eat. And then there was the change in Genesis 9, 1 and 2 you read, and there is, however, a change after the flood, so you can read those scriptures. Then there was a change in the diet. In verse 9, chapter 9, verse 3 and 4. After the flood, meat and herbs served as their foods, and not before that. Then the third thing that changed was the coexistence of man. Before the flood, there was no specific rules with regard to the shedding of blood of one by another. And that's why you've got the examples of Cain and Abel, what they did. And now the laws gave new instructions about that. And then the fourth is there was a change with regard of multiplication. Sorry, this PowerPoint is not good today because I didn't have time to make it fluent. There was a change with regard to the multiplication of man on earth. 8 humans, 4 men, and 4 women multiply, so that they are at present at a total of 7 billion, believe it or not, inhabiting the earth when you read Genesis 9 verse 7. After that, the multiplication of 8 people. And you can read it in Genesis record and some of the other books you can read it. And I don't have time to explain it, how it happens, but then if you multiply, they give you the figures. It's more or less than 7 billion people there. So then God gave them the covenant. The covenant regarding the flood in verse 8 till 17. The covenant of God with Noah and his sons and his descendants and his descendants entails that the earth will never be flooded. You know, remember what he gave them? The rainbow as his covenant. If they look at the rainbow. So Noah's faith and burnt offering touched God's heart. He seen the heart of Noah and he came with a covenant and he gave him a covenant and he said this will never happen again. How did he give his covenant? In the first place, the words of God as the covenant. In Genesis 9 verse 8 to 10, the covenant also includes the animals on the earth that God said what must happen and must not happen with the animals on the earth. Then you read in 9 verse 11 and 12, you read about the value of that covenant. So here God again refers to his covenant 8 times. 8 times he refers to his covenant, but thus God confirms it to be a sign to all, including the future generations. Should there be any evidence that there was no universal flood, then these critics will be able to prove the covenant of God with Noah as a hoax. But God made a covenant, and he stands by that covenant. And then the third is the wonder with regard to the covenant made with Noah. If you read, there you are, Genesis 9 verse 13 to 17. Just as the beauty of the coral reefs under the sea and the majestic mountains reminds you of the flood, so there is the rainbow to confirm to us that God made a covenant with Noah and his descendants. Before the flood there was no rain, no rainbow, irrespective of what people say. There was no rainbow, nothing, and God showed to Noah and also to us when we look at the rainbow, it's his covenant with us as from the start after the flood as they went out of the ark. Then, the wonderful inspired word of God does not hide that which is necessary and also does not mention which is magnificent, and that's why we read in Genesis 9 verse 18 and 19, then you see God just say what's needed to say. The Bible indicates who the forefathers of mankind are, and the whole earth's inhabitants descend from them, and we're going to look at it now. The genes, listen, the genes of these 6 people determine the characteristics of all man. Sem, Ham, and Japheth. The 3 sons of Noah. Who was the youngest mentioned? Canaan, the youngest son of Ham. If you read in Genesis 10 verse 6, is first mentioned here. Why? Because they were of the nations of Canaan, which the Pharisees, what do you call it in German, in Netherlands? The Pharisees and the Jebusites. They stayed in Canaan. They became the enemies of Israel. You remember that? And now we read about Cain. They were the sons of Cain, and he was mentioned first. And there's a reason for it, therefore. But these 3 were born after Noah had reached the age of 500 years. They were born after Noah reached the age of 500 years. If you read Genesis 5 verse 32. And before he became 575 years they were born, these three, because they were already adults during the flood when Noah was 600 years old, and they went into the ark. Now I've got nothing on the... I just want to see my notes here now.
So there were more people in the ark.
No,
Oh,
no.
okay, they were born after the flood.
They were born, yeah. All the people were born after the flood. So only 8 people were in the ark.
But Sem from Jacob, they were in the ark.
And their wives. According to verse 8.
Yeah, and their wives.
Oh,
Yeah, them and their wives, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And how old were they when they were in the ark? Or did you don't know?
Pardon?
How old were they when they were in the ark?
I can't tell you that. No.
They built
But-
already on the ark, they helped Noah, and they had wives on the ark.
But they surely didn't have any children in the ark while they were in the ark. Okay, but now there was a new world.
Sam was 98 years old.
When?
If you look to chapter 11 verse 10, there you see that Sam was 100 years old when he got Arphaxad. That was 2 years after the flood, so he was 98.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's it. Okay, you were clever.
Now the Bible is clever.
Okay. Okay, but now still, these people that went out of the ark still got a sinful nature. The world was new, but there was still some people that didn't live after they were born according to what God said. Before the flood, Satan had his followers such as Lamech, with their sons and their descendants, and the character of the sons of Noah will clearly be seen in the event that took place after what happened when they went out of the ark with one of their sons. You remember, there's always one going the wrong way. Some are going the right way and some are going the wrong way. So fathers should learn from the unfortunate event what happened with Noah when he get out of the ark. What did he do? After he had he built the, what do you call it, the altar, and he bring a sacrifice. And a year or what after that, what happened with him? He get drunk. Okay? And so one of his children have seen it. And you can't hide it. Now, although wine is mentioned here for the first time, it's the first time that wine is mentioned here in the Old Testament, that does not indicate that there was no wine before the flood. So it doesn't say was there wine before the flood or was there wine not before the flood. But listen now, for 120 years Noah's life served as a wonderful testimony of how a servant of God should live. But in a moment of not being watchful, he sinned. He had a little bit too much, a lot of it, because he was lying there. He didn't know what's going on with him. And Noah entered and left the ark as a man who lived victoriously and was sure that he would be able, I think, to handle one drink. But he underestimated the devil, because the devil just waits for the right time and the right place to let me fall into sin. And no one of us, and that's a lesson for me. this godly man walked with God, and there came a time in his life that he's done something wrong, and he's got an influence on his children. Before the flood, the devil did not succeed in leading Noah and his family into sin, but he persisted and eventually found an opportunity in which he can succeed. Some way, somewhere, there's something in my life, in your life, that he knows. That's a soft place that I can use. And for some people, that is no problem. And for other people, that's not a problem. But the devil knows what is your problem. For somebody, it's the eyes, what they see, the feel, and what they eat, and where they go, whatever in their background. But he knows where is your place that he can try and let you fall. And you must always remember that. And you will know what is that one thing. And you must run from that. That's the way the Lord keeps us to be close to Him. I know what that thing is in my life. And that's why if I ever sin and do that sin, I know that I've done it deliberately, and that is going to ruin my life, and that's why I'm running away from that. This is the only sin that is mentioned with regard to Noah, who for many years set the right example to his children. That which is remembered, listen, that what is remembered by his children can be found in Genesis 9, verse 22 and 23. And this incident happened long after the flood, as we read that Cain, son of Ham, was already born, and surely his grandfather must have taken note of the character of Canaan. The commentary said that he knew something is wrong with Canaan, the son of Ham. And in his tent, Noah was sure that no one would see him. He, however, underestimated the devil, who waited for the right moment to bring shame upon his name. As our adversary, he sees to it that someone does arise at the wrong time, at the right place. And then Ham committed 2 sins as the result of the one sin of his father. And your sins, listen carefully, your sins will always have an influence on the lives of others. You are young people, but listen, when you get married and you get children, you can't fool your children. You can't live one life and want him to live another life. He will follow in your footsteps. He will see what you do, and you know that you're wrong. You cannot fool a child. My father thinks that he can fool me. But I know all the things that he has done, sending me to church and saying, well, go to church on Sundays. And I knew the things that on the parties when they danced, all the things that they've done. And I followed his footsteps, living in the same sins until the Lord saved me. And the Lord had to save me so that he can save my father. Wonderful. But what were the sins of Ham? Firstly, he saw, which means that he stared and enjoyed seeing the nakedness of his father. In the original, it means he doesn't look at it, he stands and stares at it. And secondly, he went and told his brothers in disrespectful way what he saw. And what is evident here is that children born from the same parents may vastly differ in character. And again, you see that, eh? 3 people in the same house. And the devil sought out the one with the weakest character, and he could not wait to relate to them what he saw, thus attempting to bring them down to his level. And again, what had I said yesterday, you remember it? In elke donker gaatjie sit 'n sondaar en sy maatjie. He wanted them to be like him, because he knew that he sinned. Okay, you got it in Germany now. In English. Can you translate it in German for us?
Jeder Dunkel.
Jeder dunklen Ecke ist ein Mann mit seinem Freund.
Goed. Goed. Fantastisch. Their reaction was such that without saying a word, he realized that they did not approve of his delight in seeing his father's nakedness. And now, Noah heard about it. Noah found out what his son Ham did and realized that what he saw in him and his grandson could not be hidden and ignored. Noah have seen in his son and his grandson something of rebellion. And when this happened, he knew that was true, what he have seen in them, and that's why he cursed Canaan, the grandson of Ham, because of the rebellion. The sins of Adam had consequences, and as all sin, also the sin of Noah. Note what Noah prophesied in regard to the youngest son of Ham in Genesis 9 verse 25. That he said what will happen to him. Somebody can read Genesis 9 verse 25 for us?
He said, "Cursed is Canaan, the servant of servants shall he be to his brothers."
Okay. Now in South Africa, they say, because they love to say that, because some of the people hate the blacks. And they say that's where the blacks started. They will be a servant forever and ever. And that's not true. There's another meaning, and you will see it now when we look at all the descendants from Sem, Ham and Japheth, where they all went to live and as they dispersed over the earth. Okay? Good, so now you've got 3 sons. And out of these 3 sons is the 3 groups of people that went into the world. And the first are the spiritual. One of these sons was the leader of the spiritual for instructions in the word through which Jesus Christ would come. And then the other one was the intellectual, which serves to develop the earth on which God placed us. And then the third one is the physical, to provide in the material needs. And you get these 3 groups started from Sem, Ham and Japheth. Who were they? This explains the functions of the 3 sons of Noah that had to fulfill in the ages to come for the people that will live on this earth. And the first one is Sem, for the spiritual. And you will later see all his descendants, where they lived and where they went to. And then the second is Japheth. He was the intellectual. And through him the intellectual people came who served and developed the earth, and they were the people that find out something, how to do this and how to do that. And then the last one is Ham, and that is the physical, strong people. And usually some of them are black people, but working people, working with their hands. And you will see them all around the world. So the nations born from this brotherhood would primarily fulfill all these functions, as Genesis 11 verse 8 says. So the Lord scattered them abroad from that place upon the face of the whole earth, and they gave up building the city. So he scattered them around the whole earth. These three group of people. But what you must understand in Scripture is, one must take note that the fact that chapter 11 must be read before chapter 10, before Bible, because that was the dispersion. If you don't read 11 before, chronologisch, chronicle, yeah, is first chapter 11, where it describes the nations, and then you get chapter 10. Otherwise, you won't understand it. Say, but where did all the people go, and where did they came from?
And also, like in verse 5, you read that the people, according to their language,
Yeah,
and spread around all the world.
yeah, according to their language.
Yeah.
Because they had the same language in Bible, and then they got dispersed.
That's why 11 comes before 10.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right, yeah.
Verse 5, you read that according to the language, somewhere in the middle, they moved around
Which chapter?
10, verse 5.
Verse 5 and 31.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's where the language study of the missionary started.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
I'm not really understand where it is based on the three persons, the spiritual and the physical, that thing's based on that person. I'm not really understand it. Why it is based on in that way?
Okay, I will show you now all these people that came from Sem, from Japhet, and from Sem, Ham, and Japhet, where they came from, and where they went to live, and then you will understand. What?
I don't hear the question of the two.
What the question?
Ja, ik weet niet precies waarom het fysieke en het geestelijke leven is gebaseerd op de levens van Sem, Ham en Japhet.
Die drie indelingen die
Ja, ja. Oh, je weet niet wat je nou
Ja.
komt.
Oké, dat gaat er niet uitleggen.
Okay, there. When they got scattered, you know, they were a family, Sem, Ham, and Japhet families together. So when the families together, God used that family, and that family, and that family, scattered them around the world, and that's where they came from. Japhet was scattered north, there you got it, east and west of the area where the ark came to rest, and in the vicinity where Babel was built, Europe, China, and Russia. It's the clever people thinking, inventing something. That's where they stay. And even today, if you think about it, you know, those people were these people. You look at their descendants, where they came from, and it's like in a certain kind of family, they like fishing, and that like that, and that was the family that God used Japhet to scatter them to the north, and then you get Sem. They remain in that area, in that specific area. Okay?
So, I heard you saying before that you believe that people are black now. They were first white, but because of the sun they became black.
I'll show you now, yeah, where they went to go to stay, where they slowly changed out of that family. Okay, those people where they went to stay after about, say, 4,000 years ago. So Ham was mainly scattered southwards towards Africa. Does it make sense now? The African people, they were scattered, and that's, if you look at the climate and you look at the, you know, how they live in the sun, and you take it from people in Europe, you don't have that much sun, and after all these years they've changed. The color changed, you know, and then they started a new nation, and after that it became more, you know, black people get a black sun.
In one life it will change.
Pardon?
In one life it will change. My best friend in my old life was from Cabo Verde, and his first 12 years of his life, then he was more black than he now is.
Yeah, yeah. So-
yeah, most of
So if you imagine people staying there for 10 years and their children and their children and their children, so they changed according to the climate and the atmosphere where they stay. So I'm going to show you just now where everybody went to live.
Then in the summer, my
So maybe in a lot of years your children are also black.
What?
Yeah.
In a lot of years?
Your children are also getting black.
Now my children won't come back, became black because we are from Europe, the people from Europe.
But then you stay like a long time in Africa,
Yeah, but
and
I'm
the
not-
same thing happens.
No, but I don't walk in the fields and walking in the sun and living in the sun and shooting animals and living in that hot, everywhere. They're sleeping in the fields and those strong people, like the African people. So we came from here, but also like with his friends. There's some of my friends. They're always in the sun. They've got dark skins, darker skins than you've got here.
I heard that it's also because in the beginning when people were created, they were like had a lot of genes, and that with the possibility, like how do you say, like to be different. But now when you for ages already are black or are white, it's not like suddenly or not like changing anymore that much as it changed then.
Yeah, because they family in the same people get get children and children and children. They stay the same more or less than those people there. They've got their genes, So, but the genes of these three people from there made that all the different people on the earth came. Where you got Chinese and Japanese and all that, where they've gone to. You want to say something? No? Okay. So, the scattering of man. The sons of Noah in Genesis 10 verse 32 said, take note of the scattering and see even today how it influenced the origin of all the nations. It all started, that's what you must know, it all started with Sem, Ham and Japheth.
So why do you have it? Why is this vision different from the other people in Africa, you said? Because you said the people in Africa, according to 9 verse 25, that he's putting a curse on Canaan. And you said, I have a different vision.
They're gonna be not the slaves, but they're gonna serve other people because they are not the intellectual and they are not the religious group, but they're gonna serve the other people with handworking and hard working and the nations that came out of them. They are from that group. But in the days that we are living now, there are people that are religious and strong people divided in one group. But when the Lord has sent, He needs people to be the religious. He needs people to think and invent something. And He needs people to work. That was the three groups. And so He divided them. And today, in one nation you can have somebody that's religious, and you've got somebody that's working with his hands, and somebody that's still inventing, but also, they taking me on the movie, so I'm not going to say that. What I wanted to say, I'll tell it to you later, okay? Because they will say I'm a racist, but it's true. I'll say it to you that the black people cannot invent anything. They never invented nothing, but they can work hard with their hands. They are hard-working people. But when you look in the history, they are not the inventors. They never invented anything. They will take it from somebody else. And God said that they will be like the slaves, working for other people.
The Bushmen are inventing things.
What?
Like all kind of smart things to survive in the nature and to... Like they have really smart things that we never could think of.
Yes, for their own use, but not for us.
No,
Yeah.
of course not, because it's not their life.
Yeah. Okay. But I've got 7 minutes to show you where all the people came from, and it's not enough time. Japheth, verse 1 to 5, verse 1 to 5 is 6 of his sons are mentioned. Gomer and you can get the lectures where they went to. Homer went to live in the shores of the Caspian Sea. Their influence is clearly found in Germany and Wales. There's his sons, and then you get his other son, Yoharma in Armenia, and Magog is related to Russia, and then Madai, the most southern western part of the Caspian Sea, and Javan. I'm going fast. You can tell him he can get the lectures, otherwise I'm not going to make it. Okay. He will understand. Tiras is I don't know what is in your language, it's Thraciers. And then you get Ham, verse 6 to 20, 4 of his sons are mentioned. They are the working people, okay? Where do they go stay? They were strong and aggressive nation. They were the kingdom builders and the worshippers of idols. His son was Cus, the top part of the Nile, which is Ethiopia. And then the sons of Cush are mentioned is Septa, which is north of Ethiopia, and then there's another son, and then there's another one, and then the one that's need to be mentioned is Nimrod. You know anything about Nimrod? It's Nimrod who started the Tower of Babel with all his ungodliness. The name means to rebel. He's from Ham. And he is one who initiated the plans to build the city, the Tower of Babel. The name of his wife was Semiramis, and she was the mother of all idols. The successor of Nimrod after he died was his son Tammuz. The idols showing the mother and child first appearing during this period, and is worshipped till today even in some so-called Christian churches. The mother and child figure starts there. So the God of the mother and the child were the Roman Catholics. They brought it into the church. It came from here. That's where it all started.
There is which verse talks about that idols?
Pardon?
Which verse talks about those idols?
When you see, you read about Nimrod and you read about his son and where it happened and the idols that started in Babylon, and then later in the scripture you see they will show back, I don't have the verse, to Babel and what happened there with the idols. Okay. Verse 8, he began to be a mighty one in the earth, and he was mighty hunter before the Lord. Against he knew about the flood, and he deliberately chose to demonstrate his strength before the Lord, the beginning of his kingdom, the first cities before the scattering, and there is also his children. I don't have time to talk on all of these other children. And then you get Sem. 5 sons are mentioned. Okay? Elam, the mountain range east of Babylon. Asher, the nations of Assyria. Arpachshad, north of Assyria, and Lut, minor Asia. Aram, Damascus, and Mesopotamia. And the third son of Sem, Arpachshad, is the most important, and this shows the descendants of Abram and up to where Jesus Christ will be born. So he was from Sem.
So
And
Abraham was from Sem.
Pardon?
Abraham was from Sem.
Yeah. The line from Sem, that was the religious line. And then up to Jesus was born. And then Peleg means division, for in his days the earth was divided. And Joktan was the father of the Arabs. It is interesting to note that there are 14 from Japheth, 30 from Ham, and 26 from Sem's family, and that are mentioned, and there is 70 in total. And 2 minutes. The cause of the scattering you find in chapter 11, verse 1 to 9. It was the materialistic view of man. It was the building of Babel. They built with brick and slime. The method they use, making plans as humans in which God had no part. And their motive was rebellion against God. And in the consequences, big trouble. God appears. And that brings us to our next lecture. And that I think will be